Welcome to the Good Hormone Health webinar. Tonight's webinar is entitled Superfoods for Leanness and Optimal Health. And with my special dear friend, our guest today, Deborah A. Klein, MSRD, and Dr. Klein to be. She's in the process of getting her PhD, is a livetician, not a dietitian. She'll explain all that. Welcome everybody to the webinar, and thank you, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ted, for having me on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday night. I'm grateful. I'm going to be discussing superfoods, the superfoods top hits to support leanness. I've been a registered dietitian for over 25 years. I have my master's of science in foods and nutrition, focusing on sports nutrition. And as Dr. Ted said, that I'm working on my PhD in integrative medicine, mind-body medicine. So I coined the term back in 1994 when I became a dietitian. I didn't like the root word die. I'm like, I don't want to help people die. I want to help people live. So I call myself a livetician. I registered it, trademarked it. And so I'm the only livetician in the world and teaching people how to live it instead of diet. So I really like to focus in when you come to focus on optimal health, the key is to focus on nutrient density. In terms of your nutritional intake, you want to get the most nutrients per bite. So we want to think about, that's why I love green smoothies. You're getting so many antioxidants in you. You're getting carb, protein, fat source. So it's optimal eating. You know, it's just I call it also efficiency eating. Focus on nutrient density. And when you think about balance, what do you think about? You think about having a balanced meal, balanced eating time, and what that balance consists of is having your carb source, your protein source, and your fat source. So I think of carbs as your fuel and protein as your sustainer. That helps sustain your energy. And then the fat is your satisfier. Without, when you eat a non-fat food, you're just not as satisfied. And also the fat's important because it slows the absorption of the sugar. So you feel fuller longer. So you want every eating time to think about that balance of having carbs, protein, and fat. And this is my book. I titled it The 200 Superfoods That Will Save Your Life. My publisher is McGraw-Hill. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can check my book out, and that has over 150 recipes, balanced meal ideas, grocery lists. So it's a great resource for you to check out. Happy to answer any questions you have regarding my book. And so first, we're going to discuss what are those optimal fuel carbs. So the top 3 carbs to help sustain you, help fuel you, are artichokes. So what makes a carb be optimal is the high fiber. So high fiber carbs are key, and artichokes I consider are a balanced snack. They're like a balanced eating time because one medium cooked artichoke is only 60 calories and has 13 grams of carbs, 4 grams of protein, only 0.2 grams of fat, and 6.5 grams of fiber. So that's what makes artichokes so fantastic. All that high fiber. That fiber slows the absorption of the sugar, helps you feel fuller, and it's really high in antioxidants. It's an excellent source of calcium, folic acid, and potassium. And to make it more balanced, you want to have it like some true vegetables with it, like some cooked steamed broccoli and some salad, and then you want to have a little bit of fat. You can dip it in some organic example. Okay, the next optimal carb is an apple. And by the way, you want to go organic as often as possible. And we'll go into that a little bit more later. But an apple is, apple a day keeps a doctor away. It is very true. An apple is one of the best sources of flavonoids. Those are antioxidants. It's very high in the flavonoid called quercetin, which also reduces allergic reactions, inflammation. It's a great cancer protector, and it's a high soluble fiber food. Excellent source of pectin, and it helps lower cholesterol. It stabilizes your sugar level. As I said, that's what fiber does for us, and it's useful for relieving constipation and diarrhea. So it's a good, get that apple a day in you. And the blueberries are the next.
I'm not, as a doctor, I'm not sure you want to keep the doctor away, but
right. to keep the doctor away, to support, in terms of having you be preventative health rather than disease. So your doctor will help you stay healthy. And then blueberries are, I call it the top antioxidant power food. They're ranked first among 40 other antioxidant-rich fruits and vegetables. They ranked #1. They provide flavonoids and anthocyanins. Those, I call them a high octane oxidant fuel. So they're very, very good at protecting your cell membranes because they're so high in antioxidants. They also help prevent bacteria from sticking to your urinary tract. So it's a great partner with cranberries to support your urinary tract health. Okay, now let's talk about those proteins that sustain your energy. So just backing up a little bit, every eating time, as I said, you want to have a carb with a protein. And if you're going to eat a food by itself, for example, you want to have the carb first. So if you're going to have fruit and nuts as your balanced snack, have your apple first. And then you want to have your protein, because that fuel is your energy source. Those carbs are your energy source. The protein sustains the carb. It helps slow the digestion of the carbs so you'll feel fuller longer. So what are our top 3 proteins? The first one is black beans. The black beans I consider are the healthiest food on earth. Black beans are high in that dietary fiber that we love, high in antioxidants. Black beans contain as much antioxidants as cranberry and grapes combined, and contain 10 times the amount of antioxidants found in oranges. So we definitely want to have our black beans. They provide you with that carb also. So black beans are a combination food. They provide you with carb and protein. And they just don't have the fat, so you could have it with a little avocado, for example. So they also provide you with folate, which is a great B vitamin, zinc, iron, and magnesium. You definitely want to have your black beans to support your sugar level stabilization. Very beneficial for people with diabetes or hypoglycemia. Next protein source are egg whites. Egg whites are the highest biological value protein. They contain albumin. So that's the highest protein efficiency ratio we have out of all our food sources on our planet. Egg whites have the highest biological value protein. They're considered the reference protein. Albumin is the reference protein for all other protein sources out there. We always compare it with albumin. So egg whites are our best friend for getting a complete protein without the fat and no cholesterol. So it's fine to include egg whites on a daily basis. And the third top protein source is haddock. Haddock fish is the lowest in mercury. That's why I chose haddock as the best fish source, because it is lowest in mercury. And fish, as you know, is excellent for being an anti-inflammatory. And it's a great weight loss food, provides omega-3 fatty acids, excellent protein source. And fish you want to have for anyone with hypertension, definitely want to include fish. Anyone with hypertriglyceridemia, have high triglycerides, definitely want to include fish to help lower your triglycerides. So it's great food for overall heart health. Now let's go into the top 3 fats. So fats, as I said before, are our satisfier. So eating a non-fat diet is definitely not what you want to go for, because we need fats for hormone production. We need fats for satisfaction. We need fats for healthy hair, healthy skin. So you definitely want to eat fat. Obviously in moderation, because it is the highest caloric food. As you know, there's 4 calories per gram of carb, 4 calories per gram of protein, and there's 9 calories per gram of fat. So definitely want to eat fat, but we don't want to overload on it. So we'll go into that more. But the top fat source are walnuts. Walnuts are a supreme heart health food. If you have a 1/4 cup of walnuts a few times a week, you're going to have a high fiber satisfaction. You're going to get protein, and it's a complete protein when you balance nuts with seeds. or another seed that's a complete protein or another nut that's a complete protein, such as soy nuts. Those are a complete protein by themselves. And hemp seeds, which we'll talk about a little bit, are also a complete protein source. But nuts do need, like I always try to have walnuts with sunflower seeds, that's a complete protein. So you do want to get that balance in when you eat your nuts, but it's a great anti-inflammatory food. And second top fat source are avocados. Avocados definitely want to eat in small doses, but they're a great source of that mono unsaturated fat that we want to have for overall heart health. But just keep in mind that 1/8 of an avocado is 5 grams of fat. So we definitely don't want to overload in fat, as I said. So you just want to keep your avocado in moderation. Try not to have more than, a half an avocado a day is a good rule of thumb.
How much fat a day should somebody eat?
Overall, you want to eat less than 20% to 25% calories from fat. So it depends on the person's height and weight and their size, but about 60 grams of fat is what they say in a day.
Okay.
All right, hemp seeds, I aim for like 12 grams of fat per meal and about 5 to 7 per snack. That's why I go by that rule. And then the third top fat source, one of my favorite foods, is hemp seeds. And go organic, of course. The organic shelled hemp seeds, as I said before, are a complete protein by themselves. They're anti-inflammatory, great weight loss food. And I really like the brand Manitoba Harvest. Those, and also Nutiva, Nutiva. Those are really good. They have a hemp protein powder too. That's the only protein powder I like is the organic hemp protein powder, because that's the only ingredient is organic hemp. But the seeds are great to just stir it in I stir it in my oatmeal. You can just put it in your smoothie. So they're great to just get that extra protein that you need in the morning with your cereal. Throw in the hemp seeds, you have your protein taken care of. And they're also, so 2 tablespoons of that Manitoba Harvest hemp seed has 11 grams of protein, which is great. And then provides overall disease prevention. It has calcium in it, great for our bones, iron, phosphorus, magnesium, zinc, copper, manganese, and vitamin E, which is another phenomenal antioxidant. Okay, so rule of thumb for overall health is definitely eat unlimited vegetables and go organic, as we're going to discuss. So veggies you want to think of, though, as true vegetables. So we're going to be talking about starchy vegetables a little bit later, but starchy vegetables are like that artichoke I told you about, black beans, yams. Those are starchy vegetables you can eat unlimited. Are broccoli, green beans, bell peppers, as you can see my heart here, kale, chard, celery, lettuce. So those are all unlimited. Those are true vegetables. Zucchini, go ahead. Next slide. Okay, so this is just my overall philosophy: to live it instead of diet. To have weight loss success, do it in a way that you can live with for life. Diets don't work with my personality type. I'm a winner, not a loser. So definitely want to, and Dr. Friedman's going to talk about this more, is the way that you lose weight needs to be a way that you can live with for life, or forget about it. Because so many people try diets that are depriving, root word, and that they can't sustain that for life. And so then they gain the weight back, that yo-yo dieting, and that's going to suppress your immune system, slows your metabolism down, because when you diet, you're going to also break down organ tissue, muscle, slowing your metabolism. So we don't want to go there. So definitely think about that balance that we are talking about. Having a variety of foods is important for attaining optimal health. Have each eating time, try to have carbs, protein, a low-fat protein source. Okay, so every meal and snack you eat, try to have that balance of macronutrients, the carbs, protein, and fat. And as I said before, you want to choose about 20 to 25% protein, less than 20% to 30% max of fat. And your carbs, we're going to be discussing carbs a little bit further with Dr. Ted's talk, but I recommend aiming for about 40 to 50% of your calories from high fiber carbs. So you definitely don't want to, when you think about your carbs, think about what optimal carbs are. So what are optimal carbs? Really nutrient dense and contain high fiber. Okay, so is that considered a balanced meal? Grilled chicken on a salad? What do you think? Do you think that's a balanced meal? Next slide. It definitely is not. We want to have a balance of carbs, protein, and fat. So people think, oh, I did so well, Deb. I ate, I had a grilled chicken Caesar salad. They think they had a great balanced meal. But what they're doing there, they're missing their carb. And so then they're wondering why they don't have any energy. And then they're just craving that dessert afterwards. They want that chocolate afterwards. And they're wondering what's going on. I just had a salad and chicken. I should be fine. But it's not a balanced meal. You need those carbs. So every eating time, you want that carb to let protein be protein is how I qualify it, because we need carbs for our fuel. And if we don't give our body carbs, our body has to do gluconeogenesis. It converts the protein into glucose, and then you don't have enough protein left over to maintain your muscle mass. And so it's a vicious cycle in terms of slowing your metabolism down. So every eating time, you want to have the carbs too. Next slide. All right, so this is what I was talking about by eating organic. The pesticides that are in our fruits and vegetables, in fruits and vegetables, if you go to Whole Foods and you see that word conventional has pesticides. You always want to look for organic that has, if you look like on an apple or any, you'll see a 9 on any produce that has a sticker on it. Look for the label that has a 9. If it starts with a 9, that's organic. If it has a 4, that's pesticides. Those are pesticides. It's a fruit or vegetable loaded with pesticides. So pesticides act like obesogens, and they actually make us store more fat. Next slide. Okay, so go organic because, as I said, the pesticides, chemicals, added hormones, they act like obesogens, xenoestrogens that actually stimulate fat storage. So way to get lean, eat organic. Just do that one change. You're going to help support leanness. So go organic as much as you can. Don't mess with me. I have more hormones right now than a cow belonging to Monsanto. So definitely go organic as much as possible. Okay, I just wanted to go over, when I work with my patients, a lot of people do not know how to breathe. They don't breathe properly. So just, as I'm doing my integrative medicine PhD, so I always like to focus on not only nutrition and exercise, but also, just emotional balance, but just breathing, just getting enough oxygenation. Dr. Andrew Weil said, if I could give only one tip for better health, it would be to breathe properly. A lot of people just don't breathe right. So just take a minute here and go to the next slide and just check out your breathing. Because a lot of people even get headaches because they're not breathing right, and also high blood pressure because they're not breathing right. A person can actually lower their blood pressure. We've done it several times on patients, and we took their blood pressure before, and then after they did the oxygenation, diaphragmatic breathing, and their blood pressure lowered. So it really is important to, when you inhale, so put your hand on your stomach right now and inhale through your nose, and make sure that your stomach is going out, like a full belly. When you inhale, your tummy is going out. Exhale out your mouth. Make sure your tummy's going in. That's proper breathing. A lot of people, when I put my hand on their tummy, they're inhaling and their tummy's going in because they want to have flat abs, and so they're sucking their stomach in. But that's not proper breathing. You're actually blocking the oxygen. So do that diaphragmatic breathing. It's good to do this, if you're stressed out and you just want to keep things in perspective, relax yourself. This is really great. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Poor breathing also. Yeah, poor, what is it? Poor oboe playing. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So you definitely want to do good breathing. And so if you're feeling stressed out, please do this. Take a minute and do that diaphragmatic breathing. Go to your happy place in your mind, and that will really relax you and help lower your blood pressure. and you'll get optimal oxygenation, which is key for optimal health. Next slide. Okay, this is good. So off to you. Anyone have any questions, or should you want to wait?
Let's do them at the end, I think.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, great, Deborah. I'm hungry already. I want to go make my fish and my vegetables.
Yay.
Okay,
And your
so and breathe deeply also.
Okay,
As Deborah said, I emphasize, and she completely agrees with me on this. We're on the same page here. Lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes are different from a diet. Lifestyle changes you do the rest of your life. Lifestyle changes, diet you do on New Year's Day, usually lasts 1 or 2 days. You go back to your old habits. Lifestyle change is something you can do the rest of your life. Eating better, exercising more, optimizing your hormones. Like Deborah, I don't like the word diet. I rather say change in what you eat. You can do low fat, low carb, low calories, and I'll explain a little bit why I disagree with Deborah in a second. But I recommend somewhere around 40 or 50 grams of carbs per day, more vegetables, less processed food. Eat a lot of processed food. I go to my meetings at the Endocrine Society, and I go to different lectures on diets and see all the data. Basically, they're all about the same. They all have some weight loss, at least initially. People gain it back, whether it's the low carbs or low fat, whatever. The thing that seems to make a difference in diet is something that if people can stick with it. So they have data that people who sticks with the diet usually lose the best and keep it off. So think of some diet you could follow in 10 years from now. Do you see yourself eating only prepared foods, or frozen dishes that come in the meal every day, or only eating grapefruits, or do you see yourself eating like a lot of vegetables per day and low calories per day? I stress vegetables. I have my vegetable diet on my website, and people need a copy. They can get on my website pretty easily. Vegetables have a lot of nutrition and little calories. And as Deborah said, I recommend people eating as much vegetables as you want, except for 2 things that are technically vegetables, but they're really starches: corn and potatoes. And I recommend eating at least 2 servings of vegetables with each meal. I'd rather you, instead of telling you what not to eat, I'd rather you tell you what to eat. And vegetables are really healthy for people. I think there's a unanimous consensus on that. And you notice I say 2 per meal. That includes breakfast. For some reason, people don't think of eating vegetables for breakfast. I don't see why not. Breakfast is an important meal. You want to get those vegetables in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I like to focus on vegetables with a lot of fiber: asparagus, green beans, broccoli, for example, cauliflower. Vegetables that have fiber, as Deborah said, help prevent the carbohydrates from going into fat. The vegetables can be fresh, canned, frozen, and Deborah corrected me on this. I originally had juice, but the correct word is blended. Blended, you keep the vegetables with the fiber in it. When you juice something, you extract the juice and you get rid of the fiber. So keep the fiber in it and blend it, or you could put them in soups. I like to emphasize limiting carbohydrates, especially the starches. Studies have shown when you take in more than 40 grams per meal, it goes right to fat. And I disagree with Deborah. This is the one thing we disagree on, but everything else, I think we're on the same page here. I don't think you need a certain amount of carbohydrates for energy. I think you get energy from eating, clean, healthy diet. People can eat high vegetable diet, and they have plenty of energy. They don't need the starches. My thought on that.
It's just to support protein is what I was talking about. Because your body has to, just because you and we discussed this before, that just so everyone knows, it's not only the fuel, it's also to spare your protein. Mm-hmm. So that's the main emphasis.
Yep. So we again a little disagree on this, but I would still cut down on your starches. I think most people eat too much starches. So that's my take. The starchy vegetables, corn, peas, and beans, they're okay in moderation. I wouldn't eat a huge amount of them. People think oatmeal is the great American food, the great American breakfast. A cup of oatmeal without the sugar, brown sugar, or berries in it or something like that which I like berries, by the way, has 27 grams of carbs per cup of oatmeal.
And the other starchy vegetables, just to add, are yams, lima beans, and artichokes. So those are also in the starchy vegetable family.
So don't eat a huge amount of them, but I think artichokes are great. Um, Different types of diets we're going to talk about. One is a vegetable or vegetarian diet or vegan diet. People do this for various reasons: improve health, prevent animal cruelty, fight global warming. All those are valid reasons, and there's a lot of people I know that do quite well on being vegan or vegetarian. A vegan eats grains, seeds, nuts, legumes, soy, fruits, vegetables, oils. A true vegan would eat no animal products, no dairy, and no eggs. The pros is usually, but not always, less carbs, less calories and fat, more fiber, more fullness. But people can be a vegan and eat a lot of starches. So that would be the con: is you can eat too much starches, too much fat. Vegan people eat a whole bunch of peanut butter or almond butter.
Definitely. I had a lot of patients that became vegan and they gained weight because they were
Right.
just overloading on carbs and weren't getting enough protein.
Right. Or weren't getting even, right. So there is some downside to this. It can be difficult to get enough protein. You need to complement your proteins. For example, beans and rice go good together. The paleo diet is quite common. Some people call it the caveman diet. It was the idea that humans were born about 500,000 years ago during the last ice age. For 490,000 years, there was no farms, there was no processed food, there was no bread, there was no pizza, there was no hot dogs. There was food that grew from the ground, basically: meat, vegetables, nuts, and berries. The different native people eat a lot of these things, and they're pretty healthy for the most part. So the question is there an advantage of this type of diet of eating sort of unprocessed, more simple foods? Paleo diet, you can see here, stresses a lot of vegetables, which I like, some nuts, some fruits, wild meats, a little bit of oil, eggs is excellent. Avoids the processed foods, the chips, the sodas, hot dogs, donuts, cookies, Cheerios, sugar candies, very sweet juices, a lot of processed breads, grains, corn, dairy products that usually often avoids. Pros of this would be it can have less calories and fat, but people that eat a lot of meat, the meat can often have a lot of fat in it. Can often have more fiber and more fullness. You usually get plenty of protein from this. The cons is it could have a lot of calories and fat, and there's certainly some links between cooking meats and colon cancer and the like of that. So there is some concern about the cons of it. The keto diet is becoming quite popular, a ketogenic diet. It's a very low carb, high fat diet that shares similarities with Atkins and low carb diets. It involves drastically reducing carbohydrate intakes and replacing it with fat. This reduction in carbs puts your body into a metabolic state called ketosis. In general, it's a high fat, moderate protein, low carb diet. It cuts out major food groups such as grains, legumes, dairy, and sometimes cuts back on certain nutrient-rich vegetables. This little scheme here has, very high fats. Most of your food is fats, some proteins, and very little carbs. The idea is to get your body to switch from burning carbs to burning fat for fuel, and in turn producing ketones, leads to ketosis. There's some evidence this is helpful in epilepsy, as it can help control seizures. And some people measure their ketones to make sure they're in ketosis. I'm not sure, I was always taught that it's really not good to be in ketosis. It shows your body starving. So I don't think it's that healthy, certainly for long term. In general, I think the people that eat the keto diet, they're eating way too much fat. And I would agree, there's some good fats and some bad fats, but I think people overdo the fats in this diet. The quote grass-fed butter. I don't think that's that healthy to eat a huge amount of butter and a huge amount of fats. And I think also there's not enough emphasis on the non-starchy vegetables that both Deborah and I like. I had one patient who went on the keto diet on her own. Her cholesterol went sky high from about 150 to about 400. Well, I was going to put her on a cholesterol pill, and it didn't seem like it made any sense. She's doing this basically to herself. by taking this diet. It's well known that this raises your cholesterol. So I'm
to increase risk for heart disease and cancer.
right. So I think this is at least for long term, is probably not the best bet.
Definitely.
So vegan versus paleo versus keto, you can gain or lose weight with any diet. It depends on portions, calories. I like to tell people to eat clean foods. Try to eat less processed food, lots of sort of natural foods that grow in trees. There's no hot dog tree. Try to eat a reasonable amount of food. As Deborah says, let your body sort of signal you when to eat, but certainly don't overdo it. Eat the right food, and you will, in the right amount, you will lose weight, and stick with the diet. Pick a diet you will stick with, and that's most likely to have success.
I just wanted to add something about the vegan diet to have a complete protein. If you don't want to, because that's how what I saw a lot of my patients that were on, started a vegan diet. So they came into my office, wanted help, and they were just eating too many carbs because they were combining the beans with the rice. If you want to just reduce the carbs, the simple switch is having beans with nuts or seeds. That's also a complete protein. So just think about that too. And having, like hemp seeds, for example, as your protein, it's a vegan complete protein source, having those combination of nuts and seeds. So you don't have to double carbs to get your proteins. When you have your beans, throw your beans on a big salad with a little slivered almonds right there. You've got a complete protein. And then try to throw in some, sliced grapes or sliced strawberries to get your carb taken care of. And that's a balanced meal.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think you don't have to have like a complete protein every meal. If you have like
You have
rice at breakfast, rice at lunch, a couple hours later, maybe even the next meal, it's probably okay.
Yeah, within 3 hours, we have an amino acid pool and that our body can tap into. So yes, absolutely. It's just for more satisfaction and sustainability. I would try to have, a complete protein at each eating time. You just feel more satisfied after that meal.
Okay, great. My recommended diet, as many people know, lots of vegetables, pour on the vegetables, pretty low fat, moderate amount of lean proteins, chicken, fish, turkeys, and low amounts of the starchy carbs. I'm going to next talk about an interesting new idea, which I think has a lot of promise. I think it still needs to be studied. It's called food time restriction or intermittent fasting. I'll go back to the slide in a second here. It was made, I think it was first came on the record by a guy named Dr. Panda at Salk Institute, who published this paper in 2015 in Cell Metabolism. And when I go to my endocrine society, they have like the top 10 papers in obesity. This was highlighted there. I didn't read this paper originally, but when I at my endocrine society, I heard about this paper and then looked it up, and I really thought this was fascinating. What they did is they have a smartphone app that monitored food intake in healthy adults, and it revealed not your typical 3 meals a day. So on the left side here in C is all events, including food and water. And the people clicked on this app on their smartphone whenever they would eat or drink. And on the slide on the right, they clicked on it whenever they ate something. So I would have expected there to be sort of a clustering around 7 to 8 in the morning when people are eating breakfast, sort of noon to 1 when people are eating lunch, and 6 to 7 or so, 5 to 7 when people are eating dinner. There was no clusters like that. So people don't eat this idea of 3 meals a day. I think very few people do, or if they do, it's sort of spread out. It's not between 6 and 7 in the morning and then noon to 1 in the afternoon and 6 to 7 at dinner time. People are eating throughout the whole day and into the night. So you can see from midnight to 6 a.m., there's a little less marks, but there's still a lot of marks there from midnight to 6 a.m. So this really, I think, was a revolutionary concept that people graze throughout the day and graze somewhat throughout the night. When this may have to do with our eating, our obesity epidemic. And when you think about, before the light bulb was invented, most people would eat most of their meals. They would cook their food over a fire. They would eat most of their meals, while it was daylight outside. People would eat very little, I would think, at nighttime. So basically, they observed people's eating pattern on their app over a 3-week period. And it showed people ate erratically. They spread the food out over day and night. And interesting, over the weekend, they still spread their food out over the whole day, but it was later, it was a delayed pattern. People would start eating later and end eating later. So instead of that other picture here, people were eating between, somewhat between 7 and 11:30 p.m., let's say. On the weekends, they would start eating at 9 and maybe go till 1 in the morning. Then what they did is they did their intervention in a small group of people. They took people that their eating duration was over 14 hours from their first food to their last food, was over 14 hours. And they told them only eat between 10 and 12 hours a day. You could pick whatever 10 to 12 hours a day you want. They got some feedback from these fetograms. They didn't tell them at all what kind of recommendations on nutrition and calories to do. They just told people for 16 weeks only eat between 10 to 12 hours a day. This resulted in weight loss and improved sleep and a little bit more energy, actually. And this came to forefront more recently, another paper that is also published in Cell Metabolism from the same group that did this sort of next step. They took a group of patients and they had them only eat that normally were eating for 14 hours a day. They had them do a 10-hour window. And, let's say from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., I think it sort of says, from about 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But I think they could even pick their window. So they went from eating more than 14 hours spread out over the day and less than 10 hours fasting, and to more than that, only eating 10 hours a day and fasting for 14 hours. They took patients that had the metabolic syndrome, which means a high waist circumference, a high blood pressure, high blood glucose, high triglycerides, and low HDL, and then had them on this trial for a period of 12 weeks. Their weight dropped, their waist circumference dropped, their blood pressure dropped, their LDL cholesterol dropped, their non-HDL cholesterol dropped, their hemoglobin A1C dropped a little bit, and they had more restful sleep. So this is an example of what they call time-restricted eating. It looks extremely promising with what I feel is sort of not that much downsides. It's only a little bit hard to do. People do try to snack, at night, and I think this shows that if you can restrict your period of time, it might be, again, I think this is a fairly small study, it's sort of early, but this might be a good solution for people that are having trouble losing weight. So the time-restricted eating led to weight loss, healthier body composition, lower blood pressure, and decreased levels of cardiovascular disease promoting lipids. The conclusions then, or my conclusions from these two papers and some other literature reviewed, is the daily eating pattern is highly variable in adults and varies from day to day. More than half the adults eat for more than 15 hours or longer every day. Sleep duration parallels the fasting duration. So people that don't have much fasting usually don't sleep that well. Reducing the daily eating duration can contribute to weight loss, and I would say, if possible, try. The main thing I think I would start with was don't eat at night, but people can try this 10-hour period of time of eating just over during the day and see what happens to them. Deborah, you had some concerns about this. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, so no, I think it's excellent research to eat, to try to eat during about 10-hour period. It does help people have more just more control, more mindfulness with their eating, so they don't just haphazardly while they're watching TV just grab some food. Just having the water with them instead, or tea, is very helpful to help reduce your overall caloric intake. Because bottom line, to help you lose weight, you need to reduce your caloric intake, expend more calories than you take in. So this time restriction eating is excellent. You just want to make sure that you don't make it extreme where you're ignoring your hunger cues. That's my only concern that I was talking to you about, Dr. Friedman, is I really want to, because I've seen patients who just have an unhealthy relationship with food when they are told, oh, I can never eat after 6, and then they're starving because they get back home from work at 8 and they haven't eaten dinner yet, and they're like, oh, but I can't eat after 6. And so then it's just they get guilty, feel guilty if they eat. So it's really important to respect your hunger cues, and it is good rule of thumb also to keep your metabolism up is to eat within an hour after waking, hour and a half max, and then every 4 hours, to try not to go longer than 4 hours without eating, because there's this systemic dynamic action of eating. There's a thermic effect of food. So the more often you are eating, in terms of, not going, you don't want to eat every 2 hours, but like a 4 hour spread, I recommend. And that's just.
Okay, so we can open this up to questions on the chat button. The chat button should be at the top of your screen. Please go ahead and ask some chats.
Also, while we're waiting for people to ask questions, Dr. Friedman, I just wanted to say, just in addition to nutrition and what we've discussed, you also want to think about water. We didn't talk about water, and also sleeping, getting sufficient sleep, adequate sleep. There's a lot of research out there. When we get less than 7 hours sleep, we actually have more ghrelin hormone hanging out, and the ghrelin hormone is that hormone that makes us hungrier. So that's also another area to think about when you're thinking about weight loss and optimal health, is to get sufficient water, alkaline water. I recommend just sip water throughout the day. And then also to get exercise, as we discussed, keep that muscle mass on you. And then sufficient sleep, adequate sleep.
Right. And not enough sleep also raises your cortisol levels.
Yes, stresses us out. Definitely. And that makes us store more fat, especially in the abdominal area.
Right. So if people want to contact me, you have my email address or website, go to hormonhealth.com. Deborah, you're currently not seeing patients, but you are maybe open to questions, or?
I'm definitely open to questions. I'm trying to limit my patients, because I work full time for a corporation. I oversee 31 long-term care facilities. So I train dietitians. But I definitely still, answer questions via email, and you can check out my book.
Yeah, definitely. So Linda asks, have you found your research with low oxytocin levels cause weight gain and also doesn't help with feeling full and satisfied? So patients with pituitary problems can be deficient in this posterior pituitary hormone called oxytocin, which is also a bonding hormone, sometimes called the love hormone. And I find that people can have trouble with weight gain if they're deficient in it, and that replacing it can help with that. I haven't seen much on satiety with it. There's been some studies published by one of the doctors in Boston about giving acute doses of oxytocin, and it did seem to lead to some weight loss and decreased caloric intake. So I think that's a very promising area. We do have there's a lab called Meridian Valley Lab at Washington State that measures the oxytocin in the urine. I don't think the lasting is that great, but I think it can be helpful. And people can come see me if they think they need to have their oxytocin checked. Other questions? Anna, do you have any questions? And to ask, do you find pituitary patients we have higher inflammation and joint pain? So first of all, inflammation is a common condition that is bad for people. Chronic inflammation does lead to illnesses, and the inflammation can be from infections, rheumatological problems. So chronic pain gives you inflammation, and usually the causes of inflammation are similar to the cause of joint pains. Now, patients with hypothyroidism, especially with growth hormone deficiency, have a lot of joint pains, which I think can lead to the inflammation. So I think there is some correlation. And low cortisol can mask as, looks like joint pain. It's one of the common symptoms of low cortisol. And when you treat people with cortisol, it can help decrease the inflammation. Now, Linda's second question I'll answer, and I'll let Deborah answer this. Any diets that would help with it? So I would say in general, a clean diet is helpful for inflammation. When you eat a lot of processed foods, I think that's bad for your inflammation. A lot of the omega-3s that are the bad fatty acids are bad for inflammation. I haven't seen, people advocate inflammation diets, which would include less of the lycopene containing the lamb-shaped vegetables, eggplants and peppers and tomatoes, but I really haven't seen any data that makes any difference. I would just say for the diet, for an anti-inflammatory diet, to eat healthy. Deborah, what do you think?
Definitely, inflammation. Excellent question that you brought up, Linda. Inflammation is correlated with every single disease state out there. So, it's correlated with diabetes, obesity, cancer. I mean, it's definitely essential. I recommend people getting their CRP tested, that C-reactive protein tested to assess their inflammation. So to support reducing inflammation, turmeric, ginger, definitely, as Dr. Friedman said, having a lot of antioxidants, more organic fruits and vegetables, reduces inflammation. Fish is very anti-inflammatory. Beans, as I said, are very anti-inflammatory. Avocado, very anti-inflammatory. Extra virgin olive oil is anti-inflammatory. The hemp seeds, the ground flax seed, and the chia seeds, those are anti-inflammatory. Green leafy vegetables. So definitely focus on those anti-inflammatory foods to support. And red meat is the most inflammatory food on earth. So because it's high in arachidonic acid, increases the prostaglandins too, which are very inflammatory. So definitely eating more vegetarian-based diet, including fish, including as I said, the ground flaxseed, hemp seeds. But keep that ground flaxseed in the freezer in opaque packaging, because it gets rancid really easily when it's exposed to light. So I just want to make sure when you use ground flaxseed, add it right to your oatmeal. And like as you said, Janet, right? Is that from Janet? Okay, she's excellent. Fantastic. Yeah, the walnuts, the blueberries, flaxseed, those are all anti-inflammatory. She had a question, is this a complete protein? Are you referring to just the walnuts? The flaxseed are not a complete protein. Hemp seeds are. So flaxseed and chia seeds are an excellent source of fat that is anti-inflammatory, but they're not a complete protein. The hemp seeds are the only one that is a complete protein. But the walnuts, when you balance it with some seeds, with some sunflower seeds, as I said earlier, that is a complete protein. Nuts and seeds are a complete protein.
Cohan asks, is G, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, clarified butter dairy? I think it is, yeah. It comes from butter.
Wait, I want to see that question. Where are you seeing it?
It should be up on the screen now.
See from Roseanne?
No, it's above that. So,
Are
you looking at my screen?
All right, so I see that I've just finished a 21-day food challenge.
Dr. Roseanne Osario, I've lost weight, although I don't need to.
Oh, Dr. Roseanne promotes rice and potatoes. Do you? Yeah, we definitely do not. Rice and potatoes are a carb, but they're lower in fiber. I recommend, and white potatoes, by the way, are inflammatory. And so is mustard, by the way. So white potatoes, I don't recommend in terms of what we were discussing to reduce inflammation. It's better to go with yams. The red potatoes are a little bit better too. And rice, is a grain, and in excess, we don't want to have grains, but we do want to include some grains for our B vitamins, which are important for heart health. But in terms of weight loss, having less starch, grain is a great way to reduce your overall caloric intake. But if you have rice, definitely go wild rice. Look at the dietary fiber on the label. The higher the fiber, the better. And fiber's best friend is water. And so choose more of like wild rice, and you'll see the fibers, 6 grams of fiber. That's what you want, because that fiber will slow the absorption of the sugar. The fiber will actually grab those glucose, those sugar molecules, and take it along with it. So you won't get as many carbs. So when it's 5 grams of fiber or above, you get to actually subtract that amount of fiber from the carbs. So that's definitely a great way to balance that out.
One of those bags of brown rice that you can get like $1. They have like 1,600 calories in it. It's like 16 servings, and each serving is like a quarter cup, and then each serving has 100 calories. So it could be packed with calories.
It adds up quick. I mean,
Quick.
if you just like choose fruit versus a starch, you're going to save 20 calories for the same amount. So a half a cup of fruit is 60 calories, and a half a cup of pasta is 80 calories. So you can see it will quickly add up.
Kelly asks, is there a good program for assessing proper nutrient intake that you recommend? I found that each meal looks good, but when I am cooking for myself, I often eat the same foods each meal, so nice variety and selection for each meal, but often the same things for each meal, each breakfast. I agree that I think Kelly's sort of underlying question is, variety is good. I think you add different micronutrients if you get different foods in. So, look at cookbooks, look on websites, read Deborah's book. I think she'll have a lot of good suggestions for different foods you can eat that are pretty healthy. Deborah, do you want to answer Kelly's question?
Sorry, I'm not seeing it for some reason. What was the question?
Is there a good program for assessing proper nutrient intake that you recommend? I have found that
Yeah, if you
meal
just
looks
do like a
good.
yeah, go ahead.
Each meal looks good, but I find myself eating the same thing basically every.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you definitely want to eat a variety of foods. Try to, if you're having a fruit, for example, vary up your fruits because each food is its own state, is how I qualify it. You want the whole world in order to get all your vitamin or mineral needs met. So you definitely want to eat a variety. So you'll get your variety in by choosing different fruits. So you can still eat fruit at that meal that you would usually would, but just change them up. And then, for example, as we were talking about with the other carb sources, when you're always eating rice, change it up and have quinoa instead. Quinoa is actually from the Swiss chard family. So it's actually more of a vegetable rather than it's not a grain. It's a grain-like vegetable. So that would be a great. And then in terms of
Grass.
assessing your overall, excuse me?
The grass.
Yeah, grass fed. Yeah, it's a grass. Yeah. It's a grain-like vegetable. It's from the Swiss chard family. Anyway, so in terms of your nutrient assessment, I recommend you write down what you eat for 3 days, and you can go see a dietitian. They have nutrition analysis software, and they can enter it in and give you a printout of your carbohydrate, protein, fat, and your antioxidants. And when I did that for people, so basically it's a food diary nutrient analysis, and a lot of people were low in specific, zinc. They were low in manganese. So people that were eating the same foods were definitely low in important vitamins and minerals. So if you just eat overall a variety of foods, you'll be fine. You're getting your nutrient balance you need.
Owen says a milk solids of G has been removed. Okay. Kelly asks another good question here. The problem is if you're one person, there's a lot of wasted food. So I think I think Deborah would agree with me on this. When you make something, don't eat the whole thing, and you can go ahead and cook something on Sunday, eat a little bit on Sunday, and freeze it in either small portions for the rest of the week. Because certain things freeze better than others. But I think that's one suggestion for people that are busy during the week. Have time on Sunday is make up a couple dishes on Sunday and put them into little packages and freeze them, and then to take them out when you're ready to eat them during the week.
Yeah, take them out the night before and put them in the refrigerator to defrost.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really helpful when you're eating for one person to prevent that waste of food. You can definitely, like, if you make a casserole and you can just cut it into individual servings and then put it in Tupperwares in the freezer. And then the night before, just put it in the refrigerator. You'll be good.
But the other thing is, if you could just eat an apple, eat your blueberries. They can each day just eat your vegetables and fruit that we've talked about. Take a tomato and make some broccoli and all those things. You can make a fairly small amount.
Yes, and beans also easy to make. You can make a big bulk of them, and then you can just keep them enough in the refrigerator for 3 days, and then the remainder you could freeze.
Linda has a great question here. When under stress or low mood, why do we crave bad foods like carbs, sugar? How do we curb these cravings? So people, first of all, everybody's under stress. I wanted to do a study, but I couldn't find anybody that wasn't under stress as a control group. I always joke about. So when you're under stress, your cortisol goes up. That can and then usually your insulin goes up, which lowers your blood sugar level, and then you can want to crave quick energy. A lot of people don't eat or aren't eating their healthy foods. Their blood sugar drops during this, and they crave bad food. So I think the thing is, first of all, try to reduce your stress. Might be easier said than done, but you know, if your father-in-law stresses you out, try not to be around your father-in-law or your mother-in-law. If
The deep breathing.
do the deep breathing
Yeah.
and eat, try to still eat your healthy food even when you're under stress. Try to get enough sleep. Also, Deborah talked about when people are not enough sleep, they're tired. They usually go for those high caloric comfort foods.
And also to help prevent, as you were saying, your sugar cravings, when people eat just carbs, that's going to set themselves up for getting those sugar cravings because you get highs and lows all day. So that's why I emphasize that balance of a high fiber carb with a low fat protein every eating time. So that will help because your best friend at keeping your sugar level stabilized. That's the best way to prevent those lows and cravings is to keep your sugar level stabilized. And that will keep your energy sustained also. So just look at what you're eating to see when you're getting those cravings. Maybe it's just because you didn't have a high fiber carb, you didn't have sufficient protein. That's what I find with a lot of patients is they just didn't eat balanced.
Low mood. So some people have, when people have depression, it's thought that their brain serotonin levels are low, and carbohydrates raise them. So you're trying to treat your low serotonin. So you may need to doctor about going on an antidepressant, for example. Same thing. Try to get plenty of sleep. Try to exercise. Exercise usually helps is the best antidepressant there is. Get a lot of sunshine. So I think all those things you can do to try to help your low mood, so you won't have the carb cravings.
Yeah, and fish oil capsules are also shown to help people with seasonal affective disorder. They just had fish oil capsules and that it cured them. So having fish oil capsules is really good, and also weightlifting specifically has been shown to reduce that depression. It's to get rid of that depression is weightlifting specifically.
Mm-hmm. What are the good fish oils to buy? There's so many on the market. Do you want to answer that, Deborah?
You can just go as long as it's from a safe source. I mean, Nordic Naturals is a good brand. Just always look for low mercury. Salmon, I get that wild salmon oil. So if you go to Whole Foods or go on Amazon, just make sure that it's low mercury fish and from a good source. That's why Nordic Naturals is good reputation.
So it's 7 o'clock now. I thank everybody for joining us, especially thank Deborah Klein, MSRD, the dietitian, for a fascinating webinar. I'm going to post this in a couple days, and I'll send it to Deborah also, the link, so she can post it on her website. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks. Thank you. Cheering you all on. Optimal health.
Good night. Good hormone health.